In today's segment, we're focusing on the next generation of water. So what does it mean to go beyond sustainable into regenerative design solutions? EnsO Earth is a life-focused organization that integrates the genius of nature into solving human development challenges. As water is a finite element, how do we create this illusion of infinite water the way nature has done for billions of years? While water is the most common element on our planet, less than 3% is fresh water that can sustain human life. As the global demand for water keeps pushing on this limited resource, we need to become more innovative with water usage. Water is the promise of life and can be linked to all the UN Sustainable Goals, some directly and others indirectly as virtual water. It can even be linked to quality of education, as young girls are able to attend school instead of harvesting water for their communities. At a global level, South Africa's municipal water usage is almost 3 times more the global average, and this means we have capacity to improve our water efficiency. A new emerging engineering division is ecological engineering. While this division is globally recognized as an independent sector, in South Africa it falls within the civil engineering industry. Ecological engineering focuses on systems thinking and creating regenerative design solutions. So how do we go beyond sustainable into the realm of regenerative design by adopting net positive water, mimicking the natural water balance? In South Africa, it is predicted that water demand will outstrip supply by 2030, with 65% of our population living in cities. But people are saying that we've already allocated all our water resources way back in 2002. So why is nobody talking about this? Because they've been technically gagged from releasing the information. Living in a country crippled by load shedding, what will our future look like when we must ration water as well? When Lagara heard this reality, they became determined to push a new boundary and embrace the design philosophy that would ensure water security for their building tenants. Starting off as a conventional office building, the design solution seemed relatively straightforward. Having come from a process and industrial design background, I was accustomed to doing off-grid infrastructure solutions in remote locations. However, transitioning an off-grid building in a municipal region brought an entirely new set of challenges to the table. True off buildings are not permitted within a municipal region. Municipal bylaws needed to be met in a way that would satisfy both council and the certification process of the Living Future Institute. All stands are required to have a potable water and wastewater connection, as well as a stormwater attenuation solution. As a direct result of Day Zero in Cape Town, the bylaws have been influenced and have resulted in some of the grey around rainwater harvesting and upcycling wastewater. But beyond that, it was a very straightforward closed-loop design until COVID hit us and everything changed. Lagara made a strategic decision to pivot the building's functionality away from an office building towards medical suites. This was in direct response to the sudden drop in demand for office space due to remote working and the increase in demand for medical facilities. Unbeknown to any of us, what this decision did was catapult them into further uncharted water, as the LFI had never certified a building in this category for net positive water. Of the 600 globally certified buildings at the time, only 50 had been certified net positive water. Where we'd started to design the first commercial building in Africa seeking net positive water certification, we are now designing the first medical building in the world to seek certification for net positive water. What fundamentally changed was the pathway to certification relating to the hot water system. In the conventional office building, the hot water was a secondary service dealt with as part of the cold water system with on-demand heating via a heat pump. In the medical facility, the hot water supply became the primary service and needed to be available 24/7. Furthermore, we also needed to retain a minimum chlorine level in the hot water system, where this was usually extracted in the cold water system at point of use. These were the two criteria that resulted in the formulation of this new pathway and building category. The LFI was supportive and held a hand through the process, and the credits to their commitment to find the certification process that suits the client's needs as well. The question most people are trying to understand is what is net zero and what is net positive? How can you achieve net positive on a finite resource? It's really the difference that allows us to move beyond sustainable into regenerative. Net zero occurs when the water consumed is the same amount as the water that is recycled. And net positive is when the water recycled is greater than the amount of water consumed. In this particular case, we were recycling 60 to 70% of the water on site. So in summary, a net positive water strategy delivers an off-grid, ecologically balanced design that mimics a natural system while addressing water harvesting, wastewater treatment, and stormwater management without disrupting the natural water cycle of the site. How is living building net positive water different from other certification processes? The most fundamental difference is that all water demand must be met within the carrying capacity of the site. What that really means is that we need to mimic the natural hydrological conditions without the use of harmful chemicals. All grey water and black water must be retained and managed on site. With that long list of very specific requirements, it is very clear why so few buildings have met the certification process. In my opinion, it is probably the highest water certification process in the world, and if we do all of the above correctly, we can ensure clean water resources for future generations. So how do we create an ecological water balance? We have to first aim for the targets that have been set by the pre-development conditions, paying attention to runoff, infiltration, and evaporation. Only by rationalizing the water demand as fit for purpose can we create the optimal water balance for a project. Rainwater is one of our purest forms of potable water, requiring the least amount of effort to purify, and is not allowed to be used for toilet flushing in the living building challenge. It should be used exclusively for potable water. It is by harvesting water locally for potable water use that we are able to decentralize to an off-grid solution, which is really the solution that economic water-scarce Africa really needs. When we look at the wastewater system, we need to change our lens here and see the wastewater as a valuable resource. By recycling this nutrient-rich wastewater, we are able to use the reclaimed water for irrigation and urban farming. We can even use it for the non-potable uses such as toilet flushing and washdown areas. A biotreatment system is really the heartbeat of the wastewater reclamation system, as it mimics the natural purification process without the use of harmful chemicals. One of the main reasons for decentralizing the wastewater treatment systems is that 90% of South Africa's wastewater treatment plants do not operate, fundamentally dumping raw sewage into the downstream user's potable water source, creating the health challenges. When we look at the stormwater management, we have to consider how to reuse the rainfall. How can we increase our infiltration and drive stormwater back into the groundwater through more permeable surfaces in parking areas and rain gardens? And then lastly, we have to incorporate our constructed wetlands into the landscape, where we can use the genius of nature to create the buffer strips that can treat the contaminated surface runoff for oil and other contamination before releasing it back into our watercourses. There are so many positive benefits to adopting a regenerative design solution. The most notable is the reduced municipal demand by focusing on a hybrid off-grid solution. This will enable many developers to move forward with projects that have been shelved due to the lack of bulk municipal capacity. In a country with aging infrastructure and no budgets, economic water scarcity is already a real risk and challenge. The other real advantage is harnessing the power of nature to do the heavy lifting, indirectly reducing our energy demand and mechanical parts. Harvesting rainwater is free from micropollutants and pharmaceutical products commonly found in municipal water harvested from surface runoff. And by adopting this closed-loop wastewater reclamation system, we are able to prevent all of the above from entering and contaminating our water sources. The design we implemented also incorporated the option for seamless municipal backup, further increasing the resilience of the system. We are currently refining the business case as more accurate costing emerges as we move forward into the construction phase. Some of the key assumptions were that net positive water buildings will result in higher rental and occupancy rates. Accredited developments will increase at a higher rate of return than the market average. The municipalities will still require service connection fees. Municipal supply costs will escalate at a constant rate, even though we know water remains undervalued, and that escalation will exceed inflation. So going forward, what does this mean? We are currently looking at how do we scale this to become a living community challenge. We are working on the business case with Muscombe Water with regard to scaling the Claris Fusion to be more than just a single dwelling cost, and what is the implications of that? How do we make this more affordable for every South African to be able to have the benefit of a net positive water strategy? So if there's anybody out there who has a project or a community project, eco-estate that is needing some help or wanting some advice and involvement, we are more than happy to look at it with you. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions.